Hello and welcome to the Comung Webinar Series 2020. I'm Professor Rodrigo Iapi, the Director of International Relations at the Franciscan University in Santa Maria, Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. We are a member of the Comung Consortium of Universities. Our talk today is called The Wonderful World of Nanoscience and Nanotechnology. There is a reason for this theme, and it's because it is one of our graduate programs in our institution. And it is one of the highlights, one of the academic highlights that we have in our university. We have, besides the nanotechnology, we have a wide variety of graduate and undergraduate courses in the fields of social science, technology, health, and the humanities. One of the easy things for students to access our institution is that we are located downtown. So we have a wonderful location, easy to access. And we follow some humanistic principles. So we try our best to construct a learning environment of friendliness and welcome all the students with the best we can. Everyone can develop their skills and feel free to reach their goals in our disciplines, in our many facilities, in the interaction with our professors. The speaker for today's lecture is Dr. Professor Alencar Kolinski Machado. I'm going to briefly mention what fields he is into. He has a bachelor degree in biomedicine, a master degree and a doctorate degree in pharmacology. His group develops research on neuropharmacology in a partnership with professors in the University of Toronto. He teaches at the biomedicine and the medicine undergraduate courses, as well as in the nanoscience graduate program. This is a live presentation, and we welcome questions which can be written down in the chat available on YouTube. So any questions that you might have, any interactions, please write it down there, and we'll be happy to answer them after the presentation of Professor Alencar. So, Alencar, the word is with you, and welcome to our webinar.
Thank you, Professor Rodrigo, for the introduction. So it's a great pleasure to be here today to be representing our university, the Franciscan University. And I would like to thank for Comungi for this amazing opportunity to be here today, talking a little bit about the wonderful world of nanoscience and nanotechnology. Also, I would like to congratulate Comungi for this initiative. That's a wonderful opportunity to be sharing knowledge. Professor Rodrigo, now I'll be sharing my screen. So,
yeah. Okay.
Just let me know if you are seeing the slides in a proper way. So welcome to all that is watching us today. As I told before, I will be talking a little bit about the wonderful world of nanoscience and nanotechnology. As Professor Rodrigo said, my name is Alencar Kolinski Machado, and I am a professor at the Franciscan University. So before starting to talk specifically about nanoscience and nanotechnology, I would like to give you a brief introduction of myself. Actually, Professor Rodrigo already talked a little bit about it, but I did my undergrad in biomedicine at the Franciscan University, and I finished my undergrad in 2012. The same university where I am working now, so it was a great pleasure. Later, I did my master degree in pharmacology at the Federal University of Santa Maria, and my defense was in 2014. I also performed my PhD or doctorate in pharmacology as well in the same university. In 2017, it was my defense of my thesis. And something that's really important to me to mention is that during my PhD, I performed a period as an exchange PhD student at the University of Toronto in 2015. That was an amazing opportunity to be working at the Department of Pharmacology and Toxicology, being supervised by Dr. Andraza. So from my PhD on, I started working with neuroscience and neuropharmacology, as Professor Rodrigo told us. That's the same field that I am carrying on and going forward with our research, also mixing it with nanoscience and nanotechnology. Currently, I am a professor at the Franciscan University and also the coordinator of the graduate program in nanosciences. Well, when we are talking about nanoscience and nanotechnology, and when we look back to the last decades, we can see different periods of innovation in our planet. So, for example, the first wave that we had was involving, for example, iron and water power. The second one involves the steam power. The third one, electricity, chemicals. Also, in the wave number 4 here, we have the petrochemicals, electronics, aviation, and space. Wave number 5, we have digital networks, biotechnology, software information technology development. And now we are living in the wave number 6. That's a period that is involved in sustainability, also biomimicry, green chemistry, and also including green nanotechnology. So in this last years, we can say that for the wave number 5, and especially now that we are living the wave number 6, we are growing a lot in terms of nanoscience and nanotechnology use, intending to develop functional materials that can help us in our life. So something that's really important when we are talking about nanoscience and nanotechnology is the size scales. So here I brought a super easy scheme to understand how important the size scales are for nanotechnology and nanoscience. And I need to mention that this scheme was provided by Dr. Solange Fagan, that I think that is watching us today. So here in this first image, we have an image from the space, and we can see in this red box in the middle, in the center of this picture, we have our planet. However, this image brings us a view of our planet that is super far and far away from us. So we cannot see yet the divisions of Earth in terms of continents and oceans, for example. And in this image, we have something that is being related to, for example, 10⁹ meters of distance. But then going a little bit closer, we have 10⁸ meters. And now we can start seeing the Earth orbit on a much better resolution and in a much better way. Going a little bit closer again, we have 10⁷ meters of distance. And now we have a much better view of Earth. And we can see now all the continents, we can see all the oceans. However, we cannot see yet the states or provinces, we cannot see yet the cities. So going again closer, we have 10⁶ meters. And now in this image, we have most of South America and most of our country where the Santa Maria city is located, Brazil. And in this yellow circle, we have the state of Rio Grande do Sul. That's a state part of south of Brazil. Going to 10⁵ meters, now we have only the state of Rio Grande do Sul. And now in the central part, that's marked by the yellow circle, we have the central part of our state. Going to 10 power 4 meters, now we have only the central part of state of Rio Grande do Sul. And in the yellow circle now, we have the Santa Maria city. That's the city where we can find the Franciscan University. Well, now going to 10 power 3 meters, we have a much better view that we got from Google Earth. This view is showing us the city of Santa Maria. However, this observation does not allow us to see the different or the divisions between neighborhoods, or we cannot see the streets yet, or even the quarters. So going to 10 power 2 meters, now we have only Santa Maria, the downtown part, that, as Professor Rodrigo told us in the introduction, is the area where we can find the Franciscan University. So now we can see in this picture all the streets of this area. We can see the divisions in quarters. And then going to 10 power 1 meter, we can say that this is the distance that humans can interact with each other. So here we see in this image the complex tree of the Franciscan University, as we have 3 complexes, complex number 1, 2, and 3. So this is part of our complex tree, where we can find a huge and beautiful tree. So now we're going to have focus on this specific tree that is found in this part of our university. And actually we're going to have focus on the tree's leaves. So now going to 1 meter of distance, now we can see only the tree's leaves. And then going a little bit closer to 10 power minus 1 meter, we're going to have the image of some specific leaves. Then going to 10 power minus 2 meters, now we start seeing the divisions of this leaf, this specific leaf, and also going again to 10 power minus 3, again to 10 power minus 4, and 10 power minus 5, and finally at 10 power minus 6 meter, we have a specific vegetable cell that is part of this combination of cells that is included in part of this leaf. So going to 10 power minus 7 meters, now we can see here the huge genetic molecule that is found in the nucleus of this cell. And at 10 power minus 8 meter, we can see much better, in a much better resolution, the DNA or the genetic material. And finally, getting at the 10 power minus 9 meter, we can say that now we are on the nanometric scale. And now we can work with molecules and atoms, for example. So this is just to exemplify and to show you how important size scales are in terms of nanoscience and nanotechnology. So when we are working with nanotechnology, for example, for sure, we are working with at least one dimension of this particle or this functional material at 10 power minus 9 meters. Additionally, I have brought here this another scheme. That's something that shows us this difference between macro, micro, and nanoscales. So, for example, here at the macro scale is the scale that we can see an entire body. For example, we can see an apple, we can see an ant. At the micro scale, then we're going to need to use specific equipments and tools that allow us to see, for example, a human hair in a better resolution. We can see using optical microscopes to observe some cells and to observe and identify bacteria, for example. And at nanoscale, we can work, for example, with nanofibers, we can work with the DNA, and we can work, for example, with hydrogen atoms. But for that, we're going to need, again, specific and special equipments and tools, including, for example, electronic microscope. Another super important thing that's important to clarify when we are talking about nanoscience and nanotechnology is the concept of these both terms. They are not the same thing. So when we are considering nanoscience, for example, we can say that this field studies the properties from materials that presents at least, and this is something really important to us, at least one dimension on the nanometric scale. On the other hand, when we are talking about nanotechnology, we can say that it involves the creation of functional materials from the knowledge and matter control in a nanoscale, exploring the technological potential. However, another thing that's important to mention is when we are working and developing research in the production of materials at nanoscale, we are combining these terms. We are combining and using both of these concepts. So all the research that we have been developing in our graduate program in different research groups that are part of our graduate program, we are mixing nanoscience and nanotechnology to develop something that will be helpful and will be great for scientific fields or for the population in general. Also, here I brought the properties of nanoscale. So when we are developing or when we are changing a material and passing it to a nanoscale, we can say that we have an increment in terms of contact surface. And this point is really important when you are, for example, developing a new drug or developing a new alternative of treatment for any disease. Because it's super important to consider the contact of surface. Also, we can include in this list the changes in terms of dimensionality, changes in terms of electronics and optical properties, and also modifications in terms of magnetic characteristics. And all these modifications and changes that are specific of materials at nanoscale is why nanotechnology and nanoscience is being even more applied for different fields of knowledgement. So here I brought to you just to exemplify some applications of nanotechnology. So in this first picture that we have here is of a specific car brand that I'm not going to mention it, but they presented this picture showing that half of this car was used modern ink using a hydrophobic film based on nanotechnology, and the other half of this car was used a common ink. So as we can see here, the part of this car where it was used ink based on nanotechnology, the car maintains clean. The another part is a little bit dirty, as we can see. So this is one of the examples that for sure we're gonna be seeing much more in the future. Also, we can use nanotechnology to develop displays and screens. So for example, if you are watching this presentation today in your computer or in your cell phone, for example, for sure you are holding your device and this device presents nanotechnology. So this is something that sometimes we don't think about, but nanotechnology is already part of our life. We can also use nanotechnology for environmental purposes. So in this third picture here, in this slide, we have a magnetic material that's used, for example, to remove oil from rivers and from oceans. So this is something really important currently for us because we are facing every day even more problems in terms of pollution. Also, we can use as well nanotechnology for the development of new and modern clothes. So we can use nanotechnology to develop materials that are hydrophobic, for example, or even there are some research already being published where some research groups have created some clothes that have a material that can eliminate the coronavirus, for example. We also can use nanotechnology based on nanoscience in the food industry, especially in terms of the development of new supplements. And finally, here in the last picture, we have the description that we can use nanotechnology for health area. And talking about health area, I will be now showing you a little bit about the research that the group that have been working with me have been developing in the last years. Another thing that I need to mention to you is that we can also use nanotechnology for the development of new vaccines. That's something that we are now in a running against the COVID-19. So, as I told you before, I have been developing research in the nanoscience or neuroscience and neuropharmacology field. And I like to call this where nanosciences meet neuroscience. So the group that have been working with me, we are developing research with different artificial and in vitro experimental models, trying to mimic different neuropsychiatric disease, especially bipolar disorder. So I'll show you a little bit about the results that we have been working with and that we got in the last years. So when we are talking about bipolar disorder patients, we can say that the pathophysiology of this disease is unclear yet. It's not completely described yet. So because of it, and in this sense, several researchers around the world have been developing studies trying to understand this disease a little bit better, because then we could maybe and perhaps develop new alternatives of therapy. So some of the new descriptions that we have related to bipolar disorder patients is that some of these subjects, they can present oxidative stress, especially because of overproduction of reactive oxygen species. And going a little bit closer to understand why these patients can present this oxidative stress, some researchers have found that these patients can present a mitochondrial complex 1 dysfunction. Just to refresh our mind, mitochondria is the specific organelle that's responsible by the electron transport chain to produce the ATP. That's the main molecule in terms of energy that our body has. So here in this image, we have a mitochondrial electron transport chain. So we can see the 5 complexes that are part of this important element of our mitochondria. And here we have the illustration of the problem that patients with bipolar disorder can present. That's the mitochondrial complex 1 dysfunction. Because of this impairment, these patients can present a decreased production of ATP and an increment in terms of production of reactive oxygen species. And the result of this imbalance is some damage that they can present in their neurons, for example. Including protein oxidation, DNA damage for the genomic DNA, DNA oxidation in terms of mitochondrial DNA, lipid peroxidation, and imbalance for the calcium influx. So this is a situation where the cells are completely with a complete problem in terms of homeostasis. Another thing that's really important when we are talking about neuropsychiatric disease is that some of them, including bipolar disorder, they are associated with inflammatory activation in a chronic way. So as we know, inflammation is something really important to our body, since it's the way that we have to fight bacteria and virus and fungus that can cause an infection, for example. However, this inflammatory response needs and must be controlled. However, in bipolar disorder patients, something super interesting that we can find is the overproduction of some pro-inflammatory cytokines, including IL-1 beta, TNF-alpha, IL-6, IL-8, and interferon gamma, for example, and a decrease in terms of gene expression for IL-10. That's the main anti-inflammatory molecule that we have in our body. In this sense, we have developed this research that was published in 2016. This was a research that was the result of my period as an exchange PhD student at the University of Toronto. So this research was developing using a specific berry from Brazil that's called açaí. And talking about the Amazon rainforest, it's the main area that we have the most of our biodiversity. So in this research, we have used neurons, and we caused the mitochondrial complex 1 dysfunction, and we tried to reverse this dysfunction using açaí hydroalcoholic freeze-dried extract. So the first thing that we did was to prepare this extract, and later we performed a characterization by HPLC. So we found 12 different molecules being part of its chemical matrix, and the main molecules that we found were orientin, picomeric acid, and epigenin, that are super important molecules that can interact with our body in a positive way. So I'm not going to show you all the results that we got, but this is a beautiful picture and image that we have in our paper that summarizes all the results that we got. So we can tell that açaí exposure was able to bind the nucleus of the neurons with mitochondrial complex 1 dysfunction, going specifically and interacting specifically with a gene, with two genes that are responsible for the production and synthesis of the two main proteins that are part of the mitochondrial complex 1. They are called NDUFS7 and NDUFS8. So because of it, we observed that after the treatment with this functional extract, the cells were able to recover the homeostasis, and all the damage that we talked and we observed before, they were established. So the second question that we had was if this extract also could present an anti-neuroinflammatory capacity, since we know already that bipolar disorder, for example, is related to mitochondrial dysfunction, but also to a neuroinflammatory response in a chronic way. So this last year, we have developed this research. This was the study that was developed especially by one of our master degree students that now is a PhD student in our program, Julie De Souza. And we have exposed the cells, microglia cells, to LPS to cause inflammatory activation. And then later we have treated the cells with our extract. And we observed that, yes, the extract can act as an anti-neuroinflammatory agent by decreasing the protein expression of some important pro-inflammatory cytokines, including IL-1 beta, IL-6, and TNF-alpha. And also, the extract was able to cause an increment in terms of protein expression of IL-10. That's the main anti-inflammatory cytokine that we can count on. But then the third question that we had was, how is the real mechanism of action that this extract can cause and can show this anti-neuroinflammatory capacity? So this is a study that's already submitted to a scientific journal. And here we have another image that can show us how the extract can cause these effects. So we can say now that the extract can cause an anti-neuroinflammatory effect by modulating a specific molecule that's called NLRP3 inflammasome, and also through its powerful antioxidant potential that can again recover mitochondrial electron transport chain function. But then another question that we are trying to answer now is that, is this extract able to cross the blood-brain barrier? So this is something that we still don't know. And this is something that's really important if we intend to go to the next step and perform, for example, additional studies using in vivo model or going to a clinical trial, for example. So considering the blood-brain barrier, we can say that this is a part of our nervous system that is responsible to protect us from different agents, and it is composed by, for example, different vessels, astrocytes, and microbial cells. So trying to answer this question, we are now developing additional research in our group, developing nanoparticle having inside the struct, the assay struct. So we have created and produced a nano emulsion containing the struct. Here we have some of the characterizations that we had for this particle, this formulation. And here in another slide, we have some of the results that we got using cell culture. So we can say that this nano emulsion was able to decrease the cellular proliferation. That's something important when we are considering inflammatory response. And also it was able to decrease the production of nitric oxide. That's a specific molecule that can be responsible for inflammatory activation. For sure that we need to perform some additional assays to have sure about the mechanism, to have sure about these effects. We are now starting the research also evaluating if the nanoemulsions, they are able to recover mitochondrial function, as well as presenting this anti-inflammatory capacity. So now I'll give you a brief introduction about our university. That's called, again, Franciscan University, or in Portuguese, Universidade Franciscana. The Franciscan University is located at the city of Santa Maria in the central part of Rio Grande do Sul state. And we are used to say that our city is the heart of our state. So as part of our university, we have actually 4 different complexes: complex number 1, 2, 3, and the complex number 4, that's our hospital. So here I left to you our website address that you can access if you are interested to know a little bit better our university. And something that I would like to mention is that our university for sure is with the doors open to you. So if you are from Brazil, from another states or another universities, and if you are from another country, another universities around the world, feel yourself invited to come to our city and to our university to know us a little bit better. So talking about what we have in terms of nanoscience and nanotechnology in our university, we can include this project that we have, looking forward to work with students from schools and from teachers from schools. That's called the Admirable Nanometric Roads, or as in Portuguese, as you can see here, o Admirável Mundo Nanométrico. So I invite you to visit this website if you know a little bit of Portuguese. Also, we have some specific courses in our university, as this one, that's a specialization in nanosciences and nanotechnology. We have this another one that's nanosciences and nanotechnology for beginners. And here I brought to you a little bit more about of our graduate program in nanosciences. So talking about our program, we have 2 different research lines. The first one is related to the development and characterization of nanostructured and bioactive systems. So in this line, it's involved with the development, characterization, and application of nanostructured materials that could be new chemicals, compounds, or bioactive substances, for example. And the second research line that we have is the modeling and simulation of biosystems and nanomaterials. And in this line, it involves the modeling and computational simulation of nanostructured systems. So we have here all the researchers and professors that can be supervisors. And these lines, they are also associated. So all the research that we develop in our graduate program is combining both of these research lines, because they are complementing each other. We have also in our program the junior researchers and some postdoc students. So again, I would like to invite you to come to our university and to visit our program, and also maybe and perhaps come to visit us and become our or part of our team. So I would like to thank you again for Comungi for this great opportunity. It was a pleasure to be representing the Franciscan University. And I hope that now you are much more interested in the wonderful road of nanoscience and nanotechnology. So I'm leaving here 2 of my email address, and feel yourself free. If you have any question, if you have any doubt, do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much for your attention. And now I will stop sharing my screen, and I'll call again Professor Rodrigo.
Hello, thank you so much for this very informative talk. And I was curious to know if what kind of students go for a nanoscience graduate programs? Is it only the students who have studied something related to health, or you have other students from different areas of knowledge?
You know, Rodrigo, that something that's really particular, I would say, of our graduate program is that we are a multi-areas and fields program. So we are ready to receive students from different areas, from different undergrad courses, for example. So we have, as part of our programs, students from biomedicine, from pharmacy, from engineering, from physics, or chemistry, for example. So this is a specific characteristic that is important to us, actually, to develop the great research that we have been working on. So yes, we are ready to receive different fields and areas in our program.
For example, I have heard that you have people from computer science as well.
For sure.
Right?
We have students, we have professors that work in this area, working in a more theoretical and computational studies, developing simulation. That's something really important, actually, now, currently, because developing studies in a simulation area, we can have some initial results that will be like a base to develop additional studies. So we can go through an in vitro, an in vivo study, considering the results that we got through a simulation, for example. So yes, we have also great computers labs in our university that allow us to develop this kind of research as well.
Oh, talking about labs, as you've said right now, you have this lab, which is the computational for this modeling and stuff. And do you have any other labs that students might be interested in?
For sure. So we have many labs in our university. For example, we have specific labs that are involving the development of nanoparticles. We have some labs that are more focused on development of materials in terms of engineering. So we have a great structure in our university to develop different kinds of research.
That's great. And could you mention at least one product that has already been produced by these professors, their study groups, students and professors? Like.
So actually, by now, each one of our professors, they have their own projects, right? So something that we are trying now to create is like some more specific and huge projects that could involve the project of each professor. But talking about products, we have, for example, last year we had a student that develop like a cream to protect against the sun radiation. So that was a project that we are still investigating, and it's a great example that I can mention to you how our program can develop like new alternatives to protect us from radiation, or we can create stuff to be like new alternatives of treatments, and also create materials that can be used in the construction of a building, for example. So another project is great to mention that we have now a project that's going on having focus on COVID-19. So one of our junior researchers, Professor Mirkus, has developed a software that is actually a product, a software to identify the lung problems of patients with COVID-19 in a like previous way. And also in this project, we are developing a part trying to identify with some students that are part of the project some specific genes that can be related to the symptoms of COVID-19. So then we could maybe explain why some of the patients, they can present super hard and super problematic symptoms, and another ones, they don't have symptoms, for example. So our program is really like working hard in different projects and developing several different products.
That's great. So I thank you so much for this presentation, for this explanation. And this lecture is actually meant to give everyone here a quick glance of what we do in this program. So this is in general what has been going on, but students are more than welcome to bring their own backgrounds, their ideas for developing these new products that can actually have a major impact in our society in terms of technological developments and health and so on and so forth. So it's a program that has, it's expanding, and in this century, nanotechnology is expected to have lots of applications in our lives, generating millions of dollars in terms of progress, right? So feel free to contact our university to be in contact with Professor Alencar and all the other colleagues. And thank you so much for being with us, and we hope to see you soon in our university. Thank you so much, Alencar.
Thank you, Rodrigo, for everything. And thank you all that was watching. That was a pleasure. Thank you for your attention, and see you. Ciao.
Bye-bye.